All right, let's move on from this. We're going to talk about
the family members of these 3 Israeli hostages who were killed. What do they think? I had the opportunity today to speak with 2 of them, the families of both Alon Shamriz and Samer Talalka as well. We were down in the south of Israel. We were in central Israel. The signs that you're showing, the signs that said SOS and help hostages, Alon Shamriz's father, Avi, told me that he recognized his son's handwriting, that his son wrote those. Here's what else he said. What is your message to the government? What is your message to the prime minister? What is your message to a country that knows your son's name now?
I'm going to say this government, you murdered my son twice. You let the Hamas take my son on October 7th, and you killed my son on December 14th. They cannot serve us. They don't deserve us as a country, as a community. They are not our leaders. They're thinking only on themselves, on their chairs, on their salaries. They are not thinking about the hostages. They are not thinking about us.
His frustration, his pain, just so palpable there, Garrett, as was the pain of Leila Talalka, Samer's mother. She was, you just saw there, Alon Shamriz's father sitting Shiva. She was welcoming visitors to her home, including an Israeli politician who came to offer condolences. She rejected those condolences. And while we were there, she told him, and we happened to watch it as we were sitting in her living room, as she was on her couch greeting people, she said, I will never forgive anyone on this. She said, I hold out hope for hostages, for other people's hostages, but I have no hope left myself because her son is gone. And so I think that gives you a sense of just how raw the pain is here. And it may be a part of why you are seeing movement now, new movement, because, Garrett, for the first time in days, we can say there is actually concrete action, at least a concrete step being taken towards restarting hostage release negotiations, with word now from a U.S. official that the head of the CIA, Bill Burns, has now met in Warsaw in Europe with his Qatari and Israeli counterparts to see about getting those discussions moving again. I will say again and again, that is something that we hear from people here in this country, that they want to see those talks start. They want to see them now. Garrett?
I'm not going to be able to get over the idea of that father saying he lost his son twice. I mean, that's just such a haunting way to look at all this. We mentioned at the top the idea that Secretary Austin was in Israel today. What do we hear from him publicly? What do we understand him to be communicating behind the scenes to the Israeli government?
Yeah, that's like a good way to think about it.
Well, I mean, Hasanabi called it. They ended up killing hostages, and now no one will be on their side. Literally called it yesterday. I mean, I think that it's the starting point. It's the beginning of the end. You know? Israel offered a deal with Hamas via Qatar, released 40 hostages in exchange for a week-long ceasefire. Qatar relayed Hamas's demand. Any hostage deal includes the end of fighting. Mossad chief responds, war ends when Hamas disarms and surrenders attack planners. In order to cover their butts, mainstream media is going to start plagiarizing Haaretz 90 days after the fact. Speaking of Haaretz and Channel 12, I think there was another video that I just saw with the tank shelling one of the kibbutzim, which we knew was a likelihood. This still does not mean that, like, the Israeli occupying force killed its own civilians by the fucking hundreds, but it certainly does require Arma 3. I don't know. I haven't verified the footage. I've only simply seen it scroll past my fucking timeline. But I believe it was Channel 12 that posted it. So but once again, it does not change the what do you call it? It does not change the dynamic. Okay? It does not change that the overwhelming majority of the deaths were still from overwhelming majority of deaths are still from Hamas and other Palestinian militants. Okay? You look like you've aged 20 years in a span of months. Chill, your opinions are misguided. What? Which opinions are misguided? Yeah, if you could source it to, you look like you were 10 years old a few months ago. Yeah, a few months ago. This is via Barack Ravid. If you could source the video, if you could send me the video, that would be great. As a pro-Palestine Jew, is so refreshing to hear someone not downplay that October 7th was also bad and distinguish between analysis and justification. Yeah. Unfortunately, well, the reason why people, I mean, I'm of course going to do that because it's, I have consistent principles on this matter. The problem, however, is that most people don't see it and don't really care about it, and will just go, yeah, you're fucking, you're against the Israeli occupation, you're against the apartheid, which means you're anti-Semitic. Fuck you. What I see in Be'eri is smoke in the northern area. For the first time since October 7, we get a chance to see
אנחנו מקבלים הזדמנות נדירה לראות מלמעלה את הטרגדיה של קיבוץ בארי. כפי
the
שהכוחות
Be'eri
ותושבי הקיבוץ
catastrophe from above, the same way the citizens and
ראו
security
אותה
forces did
בזמן
at the time.
אמת. בשעה 4:20 אחר הצהריים. יותר
At 4:20 p.m., 9 hours after hundreds of vandals stormed Be'eri, entire
מתשע
neighborhoods
שעות
were
אחרי
burning.
שחדרו לבארי מאות מחבלים. שכונות שלמות בקיבוץ עולות באש.
אני צופה עכשיו על
I'm watching now from above Be'eri to the north. I see smoke in the north, west of the cemetery.
אני רואה מוקד עשן בחלק הצפוני מערבי מול הבית עלמין. שם זה
Are there burnt houses there? Yes, yes.
התיעוד הזה חושף בפנינו את היקף
This
הלחימה.
documentation reveals the intensity of the fighting and the unbelievable number of vandals who
מספר
took
המחבלים
control
הבלתי נתפס
of the
שהשתלטו על
town.
הקיבוץ. הוא תיעד את הטנק שסייע
It is
לכוחות
documented that the
בבית
tank
של
was aiding the
פסי
forces
וירה פגזים
at the
לעבר
house of
הבית.
Pesci, and it targeted the house.
אני אומרת לאחד החיילים, תגיד,
Suddenly they brought a tank, and I said to a soldier, tell me, did you shell the house? Would the
אבל אם אתם
hostages
אומרים
get
פגזים
hurt?
זה לא יפגע בבני ערובה?
I think that might be Yasmin Parat speaking there. I can't tell, but this was her testimony as well about the tank shelling in Kibbutz Be'eri that she watched from afar. She watched from above a hilltop.
אז הוא אומר לי, לא, אנחנו רק עושים את זה בצדדים.
He said,
לא
we are only
בקירות."
targeting the side of the walls and houses to
ומעצים את
demolish
סימני
them.
השאלה בהתנהלות צה"ל
This makes the work of the IDF and special forces look stranger because every house had 15 hostages
מול
inside.
בית עם 15 בני ערובה.
בא לראות טנק בתוך בארי.
Seeing a tank entering Be'eri and walking on the street, there it is.
כביש.
There was shelling. Oh my God.
זה ירי. וואו.
פתאום בום נוראי,
Suddenly a strong explosion sound and I can't move my leg.
ואני לא מצליחה להזיז את הרגליים. היה לי ברור שיש פה טנק.
A tank here. It was completely clear to me I was hit and I had a shrapnel from the tank.
לגמרי. אני נפגעתי ועדי מהרסיס של הפגז של הטנק. כי זה היה ממש באותו רגע.
התיעוד החדש חושף
The new documentation reveals how Pasi's house was
שפגז נורה
shelled at
לכיוון הבית של
5:30.
פסי כבר בשעה 5:30 באור יום, שעה וחצי אחרי שהגיעו
1 hour
הכוחות
and a half after the
לאזור.
forces reached the
לוחמים
area,
ששהו במקום מספרים
the
שזה היה
forces who were
ירי
there said
האזהרה
it was a warning
הראשון.
shot.
אחריו הטנק נפגע.
Then a tank was hit. Then another tank came to fulfill the
והגיע
mission.
טנק אחר שהשלים את המשימה.
הופה, היה שם איזה ירי.
They're shooting there.
בתיעוד הבא
Wow.
אנחנו מקבלים חיזוק
In this
למחדל
documentation, we see clear scenes of another
נוסף
failure that we
שחשפנו במהדורה.
unveiled.
כוחות רבים שחיכו בכניסה
A large number of forces were waiting at the entrance of to Be'eri several hours after noon, and they did not
לקיבוץ
enter the
בארי
town.
בשעות אחר הצהריים, ולא נכנסו פנימה. שיירת הרכבים הזו תועדה
These vehicles were documented at 4:30 p.m. on Saturday during the most intense time
כבר
of fighting in
בשעה
the town.
4:30 בשבת, שיא הלחימה ביישוב. היא מתחילה בכביש 232.
They were lining from 232 Street until the
היא
yellow
מגיעה
entrance
עד
of the
לשער
town.
הצהוב של הקיבוץ.
באזור השעה
At 6:10 p.m., I saw a large number of soldiers, dozens of vehicles of border guards and others.
18:10, מה שנגלה לפניי
This is the most cop-like army we've ever seen. I mean, it is. They are cop. They are cops. Yes, that's the point. They are cop-like. We are watching IDF aerial footage over the Israeli forces entering their own kibbutzim and opening tank fire upon the houses that also, alongside Palestinian militants, featured hostages. These houses were blown up by the Israeli tanks. Israeli tanks that might have been operated by people who were not very familiar, or even tanks operated by actual, veteran tank operatives, I guess. Now, in that circumstance, of course, just like with the helicopter fire that hit cars traveling in and out of Gaza, okay, that was unleashed upon cars traveling in and out of Gaza near the Nova Festival. There are, of course, casualties of Israeli civilians that the Israeli military itself ended up killing. But given the number of civilian casualties and the many videos that are readily available from available from October 7 and the military operations, it is, by my estimation, still the majority of the civilians killed were not killed by the IDF, but instead by Palestinian militants and maybe even criminal elements that also went through the border wall that was opened up. I want people to understand that it's copium to say that this is not the case. It's copium to say that, like, oh yeah, no, it's just IDF killed all the civilians and all of the Hamas and all of the Palestinian militancy, like, on October 7th were... You always have to do this when we talk about Israel kills their own. No, not always. But this is one instance that deserves clarity, in my opinion.
זה פשוט סדק של מאות חיילים, מאות, עשרות מכוניות מג"ב ואחרים.
Do I believe that Hamas is a better civilian to military member ratio? Yes. Like October 7 in comparison to the 70 plus days that have passed since October 7, undeniable that Israel's targeting of a civilian population is significantly worse. 100%. Okay? And that has always been the case. That asymmetry of violence always benefits the colonizing power, the colonial power. Israel is the militarized state with a nuke, multiple nukes. Like, it's not even a fucking conversation. By the way, yeah, this does, I hate to say I told you so, but this does absolutely support my theory that Israel is fine with blowing up buildings with their own people inside if there also happens to be Palestinians there also. Why do you ignore the analysis of more well-read people on this? Wait, what? I like you criticizing IDF, but you push back against people that said IDF killed most of their civilians. I still push back against people that say IDF killed most of their civilians on October 7. And also, the idea that I ignore the analysis of more well-read people on this is just completely incorrect. John Mersheimer and Scott Ritter. Yeah, I disagree with John Mersheimer on so much and always avoid him famously. Scott Ritter is a different story. You continue to ignore evidence in front of you to do the condemn Hamas, but every time it's just funny at this point. The evidence in front of me, what are you talking about? Do you think I've denied that Israel had absolutely killed their own fucking civilians on October 7? Of course not. There's not a point where I literally said Israel is definitely not killed their own civilians. I said there is a very high likelihood that Israel killed its own civilians on October 7. This does not mean that Israel killed all of the civilians on October 7, not even a majority, in my opinion. The civilians I'm talking about. There was a shit ton of friendly fire on October 7th. These guys are hilariously fucking overwhelmed and underprepared. Something that I have consistently spoken about on over the course of the past 2 weeks. 2 months. The issue in this circumstance is twofold. Okay? The issue in the circumstance is twofold. I don't think that if Hamas killed all 800 or all 1,200 people themselves, or whether Israel killed a certain amount of it and Hamas killed a certain amount, this changes my mathematics of the equation, that Israel's actions after October 7 are somehow justifiable. It is not. That's my point. I don't need Hamas to be perfect vessels of revolution or whatever the fuck people try to fantasize them as. Okay? I believe Palestinian emancipation is moral and just. I also believe that Hamas, which has historically engaged in acts of terror upon a civilian population by deliberately targeting a civilian population, as they did on October 7th, is simply an expression of Palestinian emancipation and would be replaced by another group if it did not exist. They might not be Islamists. They might not target civilians at all, another group I mean. But that still doesn't change the equation for me. The dynamics, like my opinion on Palestinian emancipation is not conditional that they are perfect victims. My opinion on Palestinian emancipation does not rely on them retaliating in only nonviolent ways that I find permissible. So there's two different things that I believe here that I think people are missing the point on. This is why I said October 7th is an act of terror and absolutely qualifies for it due to the majority civilian casualties, okay? And the personal nature of this violence as well. It's not like they're fucking lobbing bombs and accidentally hitting a fucking kindergarten or some shit because they have conventional weapons and they are doing their very best to retaliate against the Israeli government like they do normally when they fucking lob missiles into Israel, okay? They went in. They had guns, and they shot a bunch of fucking civilians. It's that simple. Hundreds of civilians died. They were killed. This does not change the dynamic within Israel's maintenance of the apartheid, which is completely unacceptable, and it certainly doesn't change the dynamic of Israel retaliating in the way that it has. I'm sorry, but how do you know they actually shot civilians directly? Brother, there is a lot of footage readily available. You know what I mean? It was a fucking carnage. I don't know why people act like this is not the case. Like, I mean, on the day of, it was readily available. From what sources? Literally Hamas Telegram channels, man. Like, I know that there is plenty of things that are not on camera, that there's no video evidence for, and Israel regularly fucking tries to recycle, like, as many narratives as possible about how, like, these guys are all barbarian monsters and fucking, they're gang rapists, and they are definitely doing gang rape, and they're beheading babies. Like, they were going around chopping up babies' heads and shit and throwing them in ovens and then eating the baby and then high-fiving each other as they were eating the baby. And one of them said, "Oh man, this baby tastes so good." Like, there's a lot of fucking psycho shit that's out there. but it's not psychotic and made up to say that they fucking shot at civilians, dude. They threw grenades inside of fucking houses where there were civilians. I mean, I saw it. I saw it with my own two fucking eyes. Like, I don't know what do you mean? They shot indiscriminately at fucking toilets, like porta potties at the Nova Festival, like mass shooters do. There's no tactical reason for that. You know what I mean? They were high on the dabbing drug. They were high on some other drugs, probably Copsalon, or not Copsalon. What is it called? Fuck. Copsalon is the Captagon. Copsalon is the fucking Surinamese food, which is very good. Anyway. From 4 days ago, 695 civilians, including 32 under 18, 20 under 15, definitely not 40 babies. No, I know. They are updating the numbers and stuff like that, for sure. Copsalon is not Surinamese, wasn't it? Wait, oh shit, sorry, it wasn't Surinamese, it's Dutch. My bad. Anyway, let's continue. These soldiers were all fully armed. What? What is this? Israel caught in a crossfire gets the most attention possible. Okay, I don't care. The soldiers were all fully armed. I went to each officer I saw until the one with the highest rank and asked about the one who led the operations.
מרב סרן, ושאלתי אותו מי מנהל האירוע, מי מפקד באירוע, והוא עבר, אמר לי לא, אני רק מפקד על 5,000.
He answered, I'm only responsible for those 5. So I went to another officer who told me that he was responsible for only those 10. Every officer I asked about, the one in charge, didn't know the answer. It was a horrible leadership failure. I told them that there was a fight there inside and families were being killed. We should get in, but no one listened to me. When we got out, I yelled at all the soldiers and said, who will go back to Be'eri? When we got out, I yelled at all the soldiers and said, who will go back to Be'eri? I approached each one of them and I said, doesn't make sense that you are standing here. People were calling for help and they were all standing. No one speaks. No one says, I will. 500 soldiers were standing outside. They were organized with canines and fully equipped. With all this protection and those vehicles, they were just standing outside and not doing anything. Pull the children from burning shelters of the elderlies. With every minute, people were losing blood. In the army, it was nothing. Just standing outside, not knowing anything. It seems like Israel did a Uvalde at first, and then very quickly swapped it from Uvalde to, the fucking Hannibal directive. Those days, the army is busy fighting in Gaza, and the important investigations into the failure on October 7 have not started yet. This is a documentation of the Black Saturday, but 2 months after it, the citizens of Be'eri, as well as citizens of Gaza envelope, deserve to get answers about what happened. There was a leadership problem. The fighting spirit and the impulsive towards the goals were all missing there. When we had to push the soldiers inside the town, only a few forces entered. If there was a problem inside and we were fighting alone the entire time, it's like, bro, dude, I mean, you see how they operate in fucking Gaza. They don't get out of the Merkavas. They don't want to fucking die. They're scared. That's it. They don't want to fucking die. So they go in with the tanks and they deal with the matter in the only way they know, which is by using the tanks. I mean, this is like the asymmetry of force displayed on October 7 in this regard is literally identical to the Israeli modus operandi in general. That's what you see in Gaza too. They fucking blow up entire city blocks and then push through the rubble with tanks without any infantry support whatsoever. That's just how it is. It's because they place a lot of value in each individual soldier, and that's kind of not how armies are supposed to operate. The whole point is like you're a fucking machine, you know what I mean? You're supposed to be sending units into the path of bloodshed. Like bullets are hailing towards you, and you're supposed to be fucking hopped up on whatever kind of drugs you have, whatever kind of go juice is out there, whatever the Israeli go juice is, okay? And you're supposed to just like rush in. The stories show me how much bullshit you get from both sides. Like you just read captions and checked sympathizers to de-hype. Ya Allah. Go juice something real? Feel dumb asking? For the American military, yes. For pilots, it's modafinil, but that doesn't really give a hide unless you just stay up for 72 hours. The shortcomings of the IDF come from them being considered an elite force, while not being an elite force is absolutely correct, by the way. They are considered an elite force when they're not, and also incredibly arrogant in the way that they have operated for, you know, a captured population that they can't necessarily fight against, or that can't fight against them for the most part. That's where that shit comes from. Like when you're so used to sniping grandmas and shit, and not even like directly sniping them, but using a fucking drone sniper, like holy shit. How much do you have to depersonalize your fucking troops at that point? When you're too used to fucking sniping a civilian population, and that's what you know, or doing like occupying force maintenance in like, again, in the West Bank with like kids who throw fucking rocks and shit, then yeah, you're gonna not want to literally go into actual active battle with a guerrilla force with AK-47s. Uvalde is a great example of this. That's what the police do. Cops are just like, I don't want to fucking go in there. I'll die. It's the most normal human consideration to have. Okay?
Garrett, that dichotomy and that framing, because publicly the Secretary of Defense is coming out and reiterating very strongly the U.S.'s support for Israel in its war here against Hamas after that terror attack on October 7th. That was clear from his news conference with reporters earlier today here in Tel Aviv, here in Israel. Behind the scenes, we understand from multiple sources that the Biden administration has been making clear they would like to see Israel move to the next phase of its operation, the less intense phase of its operation.
I gotta pee.
Sometime in the fairly
and
near
you gotta see the 3-minute ad break.
They have not publicly specified what kind of a timeline there would be, but I will tell you that according to a senior defense official, that was a key part, or one of the parts, of the Secretary's conversations with his Israeli counterpart, with leaders here in Israel, with the Prime Minister, getting very specific, getting granular on what exactly the metrics are that Israel needs to see in order to move on to that next phase, given the humanitarian crisis in Gaza that is getting worse every day. Garrett.
Yeah. All right. U.S. President Joe Biden facing challenges for re-election ahead. I do want to talk about this because he is. We're going to move away from the Israel stuff in a brief moment, but two things I want to show you. One is this video. The other is the lady. Oh yeah, we're going to do the New York Times polling divides, which is fucking nutty. Okay. I'm going to also show you here. I'll start off with this one. The Israeli politician Yuli Edelstein, chair of the Israeli Parliament's Foreign Affairs and Security Committee, said that accusing IDF snipers of targeting civilians in a church is anti-Semitic.
Well, we're now joined from Tel Aviv by Yuli Edelstein. He's the chairman of the Israeli Parliament Foreign Affairs and Security Committee. Thank you very much for coming on the program. You heard our member of parliament, Leila Moran there, her relatives, 6 of them, targeted by Israeli army snipers in a church compound in Gaza. What on earth is going on?
Well, that's the question to later, not to me. I think that I can only say that we, as the Jewish people, are used to blood libels. So to hear that Israeli snipers are targeting women on purpose and not letting them leave the church is something that reminds me usually the atmosphere in the Middle Ages before another holiday.
Are you saying it's a lie? Are you saying it didn't happen?
This is a flat lie, absolutely. No Israeli sniper ever purposely targeted any civilian, to say nothing about women.
Well, we're now joined from Tel Aviv by Yuli Edelstein. He's the chairman of the Israeli Parliament Foreign Affairs and Security Committee. Thank you very much for coming on the program. You heard our member of parliament, Leila Moran there, her relatives, 6 of them, targeted by Israeli army snipers in a church compound in Gaza.
I want to watch it again.
What on earth is going on?
Well, that's the question to later, not to me. I think that I can only say that we, as the Jewish people, are used to blood libels. So to hear that is...
Yeah, bro, is blood libel to fucking openly say what you are defending here? That's what's going on. It's crazy. It's crazy to just fucking invoke blood libel on an issue that is dead to rights, man. Here's another version of this, by the way. Here is the deputy mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur Hassan Nahum, responding to the reports that the IDF have targeted a Catholic church in Gaza. I mean, it's like the quickest short work I've ever seen, bro. Under 1 minute. Watch.
If a ceasefire means the return of the hostages and the dismantlement of a genocidal regime that has stated that they're going to attack us again, then everybody would be in favor of a ceasefire. But if a ceasefire means that we're just going to keep them quiet for a bit until they attack again, then it's Israel's obligation to defend its citizens and destroy that threat, don't you think?
Why is it necessary, it is reported, to start shooting, having snipers outside a church?
I saw the reports this morning.
She saw the reports this morning.
Church, there are no churches in Gaza.
That's crazy. There are no churches in Gaza.
So I'm not quite sure where the report is talking about.
There's a Catholic church in there, isn't there? That is.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are no Christians because they would.
Then she says, unfortunately, there are no Christians in Gaza because they were forced out by Hamas.
Driven out.
Yeah.
Well, there are
not correct. Literally not true.
There are Christians because I spoke to an MP yesterday who has family members in the church who are Christians.
Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know who was attacked.
She said, I don't know what happened. I don't know who was attacked.
I didn't see the report.
I didn't see the report. And it's like, bro, are you fucking kidding me? You just said, I saw the report, okay? Then you followed up with there are no churches in Gaza. Then they were like, no, there are churches in Gaza. Then you were like, okay, there are no Christians in Gaza. And it was like, no, there are Christians in Gaza. You're killing them. And she's like, okay, I didn't see the report. That's it. If your one job is to literally try to contextualize the fucking violent actions against a civilian population, and you flub it this hard to a captive audience, by the way, to an audience that is like willing, they're begging to fucking hear something from you that makes some sense, god damn it. You got one fucking job. You got one job. Yeah, George Santos level of lying here. Oh, this is why you bring out the big-headed motherfucker? No, he sucks at this too. Anyway. Like, I get it. Your job is hard, okay? It's not easy to try to make an active, ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign seem permissible and appropriate through a liberal lens, okay? Especially when, like, Israel is so horny Israel is so fucking horny for blood. Like, it is just so regularly doing just atrocities. But, like, try a little bit harder than just like, oh, nah, that's just anti-Semitic, dog. Come on. Come on. Oh, that's just blood libel, actually. Breaking, the Colorado Supreme Court rules Trump is disqualified from holding office, citing Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, removing him from the state's 2024 ballot. The Trump team is obviously expected to appeal to the Supreme Court, but the time is of the essence, given the Secretary of State has said they are required to certify the list of candidates for the GOP primary by January 5th. That's insane. Some good news. Poll finds wide disapproval of Biden on Gaza and little room to shift gears. Okay.
Democratic.
We'll talk about like the counter from John Fetterman, who is very smart and definitely doesn't have a bad brain, but a good brain actually, really good one, I promise. Okay. Opinion is split between those wanting the war to end and those pressing for a definitive Israeli victory, and the divide is starkest among older and younger generations. Voters broadly disapprove of the way President Biden is handling the bloody strife between Israelis and Palestinians, a New York Times Siena College poll has found, with the younger Americans far more critical than the older voters of both Israel's conduct and of the administration's response to the war in Gaza. Voters are also sending decidedly mixed signals about the direction of the U.S. policymaking should take as the war in Gaza grinds into its third month, with Israelis still reeling for the October 7th terrorist attacks, thousands of Palestinian deaths in Gaza, and the Biden administration trying to pressure Israel to scale back its military campaign. Nearly as many Americans want Israel to continue its military campaign as want it to stop now to avoid further civilian casualties. That split appears to leave the president with few politically palatable options. I saw the Trump Colorado thing, okay? You're not. I'm going to steal a Chatter's meme and say, the Supreme Court has the opportunity to do the funniest thing right now. Fucking stole it. Yoink. It's my joke now. Yup. Yoink and no twist. No twist at all, baby. It's called plagiarism, dog. That's right. You do it to me on a daily basis. Hope Kaya pees on your shoe. How dare you say that, sir? You do not hope Kaya is a bad girl under any circumstance. Hit up H Bomber guy. Hit up H Bomber guy. Make him do a fucking 8-hour video on this fucking plagiarism right here. Woo-wee. I took your joke and I made it mine. Just like you take literally half the fucking commentary in here and make it yours, which is my goal. I want you to do that. That's a good thing overall. Anyway. Split appears to leave the president with few politically palatable options. The findings of the Times Siena poll hold pretends not only for Mr. Biden as he enters the 2024 re-election year, but also for long-term relations between the Jewish state and his most powerful benefactor, the United States. The fractured views on the conflict among traditionally Democratic voter groups show the continued difficulty Mr. Biden faces of holding together the coalition he built in 2020, a challenge that is likely to persist even as economic indicators grow more positive and legal troubles swirl around his expected opponent, former President Donald J. Trump. I have a question, Hasan. Why is everything contextualized around voters? This isn't a voting issue. This is a human rights issue, right? Yes. That's a great fucking question, my friend. That's because Americans are moral cowards. Okay? That's the reason. That's the only reason. And like this way, This way, the New York Times can basically whitewash America's involvement in ethnic cleansing by saying, well, the voters are really conflicted on genocide. So that's something you need to always consider. This is something I actually talked about quite extensively yesterday, where I said, look, I'm a leftist. I've been a leftist for a very long time. I'm used to failure. I'm used to losing. And I know what it feels like when the overwhelming majority of the public is against you. Okay? That's what being a leftist is in many instances, unfortunately. And I think a lot of baby leftists in the 2020, leading up to the 2020 era, like in the Trump universe, mistook the negative polarization against Donald Trump by the Democratic Party for legitimate interest in socialism by the American population. In the same way, a lot of people saw Bernie Sanders' popularity in 2016 not necessarily just a negative polarization against Hillary Clinton, okay, but instead of positive polarization directly and entirely towards democratic socialism and what it means. Now, here's the thing. There is a lot of the other side here as well. Of course, there were plenty of people who were like, oh, dude, socialism sounds fucking dope. I'm on board, actually. Right? There were. Just like there were plenty of people who didn't only aesthetically support Medicare for all like Kamala Harris did because they knew that the Democratic Party had no power under the Trump administration anyway, so they could take the most leftist positions. But what you should never forget is that you don't advocate for a lot of stuff because you think it is going to help you win elections. In a lot of instances, it might, as long as there's enough energy and momentum and messaging behind it, which the Democratic Party refuses to do so. And that is a major issue, something I talk about quite a bit as well. And that contributes to the Democratic Party's downfall because just like in the issue with Israel-Palestine, or just like in the issue with like immigration and taking hardline white nativist stances against immigration, just like with respect to crime running rampant in blue cities, all of these reactionary narratives are cooked up by the Republican side, and the Democrats end up conceding and legitimizing these reactionary issues without actually offering effective counter messaging against it. And guess what? Republicans are always going to be able to out-racist the Democrats. You can't just go, I'm going to go 30% in on this racism shit and hope that people vote for me. You're always going to fucking lose. Your competition is the Republican Party. You cannot outflank them on patriotism. They own that shit, or whatever the demonstration of patriotism means in America. You cannot outflank them on nationalism. You cannot outflank them on homophobia. You cannot outflank them on reactionary politics in general. That's their bread and motherfucking butter. So all you do when you turn around and say, actually, I'm the real fucking anti-crime candidate, is capitulate to the Republican agenda and offer concessions and basically say, you know what? The Republican statement on this matter is true. Republicans are right. Crime is a major problem, actually. It is unimaginable how bad crime is in blue cities. But guess what? We'll do a better job than the Republicans in solving it is a horrible fucking message to put out there. All you did was legitimize their fucking shit slinging. That's all you did. You voluntarily took your enemy's position and said that position is correct. And now you have to fight on New Game Plus difficulty because everybody believes your ideological enemies are the best at dealing with this made-up problem. Okay? Is crime not bad, though? Yes, crime as a whole is a signal that the social contract is broken, that the systems that we exist under are not working, okay? Yeah, no shit, crime is fucking bad. I'm not saying crime is fucking good. I'm simply stating that the reactionary attitude towards the crime panic is a moral panic, and a hysteria that the Republicans concocted to win elections. Democrats should look at that and go, actually, when you look at the numbers, what you are saying is not correct. I did that for 3 fucking years now, since 2020. And I got ass fucked every goddamn day for it, okay? For being correct. Every fucking day for the past 3 years. Anytime I talk about crime, everyone's like, when I said it's overblown, it's overblown, it's overblown, everyone's like, shut the fuck up. You love crime. You want to kill small business owners. Hold on. Don't be the I told you so guy. I am the I told you so guy. Chubby little punk face kid. Why are there 45-year-old divorced dads who are alcoholics in my chat saying chubby little punk face kids? Where are these motherfuckers coming from? Go pay your fucking alimony and child support, dumbass. The fuck are you doing in here? That's crazy. If you're calling a 32-year-old man a fucking kid, you need to go to the retirement home, okay? Anyway. Overall, registered voters say they favor Mr. Trump over Biden in the next year's presidential election by 2 percentage points, which is too close to call. It's a doctor disrespect quote, calm down. Oh, that's like the 3rd time I heard this today. Oh, it's from him. He's the one who keeps saying it. Well, there you go. I wasn't wrong then. If you are Dr. Wife Respect, if you're fucking bringing up a Dr. Disrespect quote in here, then like I'm not that far off base when I say like a 45-year-old alcoholic divorced dad. Anyway, turns out I was kind of right without knowing where it was coming from. So we can assume that when Joseph Robinette Biden legitimizes the immigration narratives, the white nativist immigration propaganda, all he's doing is ceding ground to the Republican narratives that immigration is a problem. Okay? But there is considerable uncertainty over whether the disaffected voters will even vote. Overall, registered voters say they favor Mr. Trump over Biden in the next year's presidential election by 2 percentage points. The president's job approval rating has slid to 37%, down 2 points from July. It's not good. Not good at all. As a matter of fact, very bad. What the fuck is this? Why did you send this link to me, chatter? Sometimes you guys send me links and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Did you see Schumer's response to Trump's white nativism? Yeah, except the Democratic Party right now, at a time when Donald Trump is fucking popping off about poisoning the blood, immigrants are poisoning the blood of America, okay? What is the Democratic Party's response to that? Yes, you're right, actually. They are poisoning the blood. We need to build a wall. Yes, you're right. We have to, I guess, give more money to the immigration issue that even Joe Biden has considered to be a major problem. So anyway, let's take a look at the Al Jazeera coverage on the matter. And then I'll go back to, oh my God, it's big. It's big. It's really big. It's the biggest, okay? Take an hour off. It's the biggest dog bed you've ever seen.
U.S. President Joe Biden is about to enter an election year as the incumbent, and this is how voters view his response to the war on Gaza. A New York Times and Siena College poll reveals 57% of voters disapprove of Biden's handling of the war, while 33% approve. 46% of registered voters said they trust Republican contender Donald Trump to do a better job than Biden on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. 44% of voters said Israel should stop its military campaign to protect civilians, even if not all captives are released. And 39% said Israel should continue its assault until all captives are released, if it means more civilian deaths and injuries. Our White House correspondent Kimberly Howker.
Americans are so gross, dude. Actually, bro, we fucking love a war, man. We love a good war, you know? Down to the very core. We're like, man. "39% of Americans say Israel should continue even after it kills all the Palestinians. 40% of Americans believe Israel should only kill civilians." Like, what the fuck? Damn, dog. What the hell is that? 44% of Americans believe that once Israel's done with all the Palestinian civilians in Gaza, they should move on to the West Bank.
Joins us live now. So, Kimberly, not a good set of numbers for the president with less than a year now to the election.
And not a good set of options on how to move forward in terms of policy. If you look at these numbers and kind of dig down into them, the takeaways are difficult in terms of where the president should go if he's trying to win re-election and win over the approval of particularly the Democrats that he needs in order to win a second term in the White House. Because what we've got here is a bit of a fracture when it comes to Democratic voters, particularly when it comes to the young voters who seem overwhelmingly displeased with the way the president is handling his policy when it comes to support of Israel and its war on Gaza. They're calling for a ceasefire largely, and we've seen this and some reaction to this in terms of the language that the president has been using in recent weeks, asking the Israelis to be more surgical in their military campaign. But at the same time, what he's trying to balance is the fact that many older Democrats within the party are very happy with how things are going and would like this conflict to continue. And so this balancing act that the president is juggling is a challenge for him. And then we also see that within these numbers that things have become very partisan. It's always been the case that for the most part, Republicans have been very much behind support of Israel, and those numbers have only become more entrenched. But what's most alarming for the president in all of this is the fact that things are now not looking good when it comes to looking at the Democratic voters, and many are now saying that they might even vote for Donald Trump, which was not the case 4 years ago. On top of that, you also have the economic issue and the fact that the president's not polling well there either. In fact, his numbers have gone down by 2 percentage points, now to just 37%. So when you look at this as a whole, for a president who's got less than a year until voting day, it's certainly.
Sweet objective title. I know you're watching the most accurate of news possible, says Trojan Horse Daddy. What do you mean, like Al Jazeera or me? Epstein files released. Trump goes full Nazi. U.S. Houthi response. No pixel later. Or are you talking about Al Jazeera? Most young voters do not approve of U.S. President Biden's handling of the war in Gaza. What is the controversial part of any of that? Oh my God, this makes me so happy. This makes me so happy. I think this is a Trump supporter who's like upset that I said Trump goes full Nazi. Which would be like the first time it's not like an annoying, smarmy liberal dipshit coming in here to be like, wow, Hasan, quite anti-Semitic today. I feel like for the past 70 fucking days, I've just only duked it out with dumbass liberals who are ultra Zionists being like, I don't care about Palestine. But also at the same time, Israel has a right to do ethnic cleansing. Come on, please, please. Are you a Trump fan? Please tell me you're a Trump fan. Oh, God, I can't believe I missed fucking Trump supporters so bad. I love you, chatter. Please stay.
Certainly not a good recipe for re-election.
All right, Kimberly Howkett, live for us there in Washington for the moment. Thanks very much.